Are my dad and mom's move finished? Ben decided on his own that we would live together without consulting me, and he didn't help at all. He never seems to want to listen to my opinion. He proceeds with things based on his own ideas and acts on his own. Even now, he only asked about the situation over the phone, but I don't even know where he is. I had been disappointed in Ben before, but it was thanks to that person that I finally made up my mind. Yes, it's all finished. I just moved into a high-rise condo myself. What? While hearing his surprised voice, I laughed with my son, Aaron, who was next to me. He had left everything up to me, so he hadn't noticed anything. What do you mean with a high-rise condo? A high-rise condo means just that. A high-rise condo. With that, I ended the call. The next day, Ben contacted me. Apparently, he had ended a trip with his beloved parents in the middle to come and see our house. There's nothing here. Where is the luggage? Where could it be? What do you mean, where could it be? For details, please ask that person directly. After saying that, I heard a voice of anger from the other end of the phone. I, Cindy, am a 57-year-old housewife. When I was younger, I worked in sales, where I was a top performer and secured many contracts, so I was relied upon in my department. However, I quit because Ben, who was once my boss and trainer, asked me to. After many talks and discussions we had together, Ben confessed as we were close in age, and after several years of dating, we got married. He asked me to quit my job and dedicate myself to the family, promising that he would never let me struggle, so I resigned upon marrying despite having many regrets. After that, at the age of 33, I gave birth to our son, Aaron, and it felt like I was leading a happy family life. Ben doted on Aaron very much, sometimes to the point of spoiling him, which often exasperated me. On the other hand, I didn't have a good relationship with my in-laws, especially with my mother-in-law, Diane, with whom I often disagreed about how to raise Aaron, resulting in a strained relationship. It was around this time that Aaron went to university, became independent, and started living alone. Ben reluctantly agreed on the condition that he would visit regularly. After that, it was just the two of us. But Ben started diverting the money he used to spend on Aaron to his own parents. While there was nothing wrong with that, the continued purchase of luxury goods, trips, and gourmet food continued. Aaron didn't need them, so there was no problem. But my mother-in-law, who would take anything she could get, started to affect our finances. Ben, where is the $1,000 I left here? I used it because Mom said she needed a wallet. What are you talking about? I told you not to touch it because it's for the rent. Shut up. It's my money that I earned. What's wrong with spending it as I like? A mere housewife like you shouldn't complain to the head of the house. Whenever I say anything about money, Ben raises his voice in objection. Housewife, that's a term Ben often brings up during our arguments. You're the one who asked me to become a housewife. You being unemployed is a fact. If you can't earn, don't complain. If you hate me being unemployed, I'll go out and get a part-time job. Hey, don't joke around. If I allow my wife to work outside, I'll be seen as incompetent. There are still people with such views today. Ben, unnecessarily proud, wouldn't accept me working outside. When I started working secretly, he found out through his mother where I was working and came yelling at me. In such circumstances, I couldn't even take up a part-time job, so I had no choice but to start working from home. Initially, the income was modest, but it gradually increased, and I was able to manage by using the money for living expenses. Honestly, if the income continues to increase, I might consider divorcing Ben. One day, when I was working from home, the doorbell suddenly rang. I wasn't expecting any visitors, but thinking it might be a delivery, I opened the door to find my mother-in-law standing there. Hi, is something wrong? Nothing's wrong, you shut in. She yelled as barged into the house. Again, this word shut in filled me with disgust. When I was working, my mother-in-law had told me to quit and become a housewife. But once I actually retired upon marriage, she started blaming me like this. Ben is earning money, and that's how you can live. Yet, you dared to defy your husband. She would not listen to me at all and kept attacking me until she was satisfied. Just when I thought I couldn't concentrate on work because of this situation. Diane, how many times do I need to say it? Stop bothering Cindy, darling. Cindy, I'm sorry that Diane is bothering you again. My father-in-law, Henry, had come to take my mother-in-law home. He has always been rational, and ever since he retired, he has been gardening while also keeping my overly assertive mother-in-law in check. He had returned from gardening today and, noticing my mother-in-law was missing, came over worried. I had received his help many times. When will I see my grandchild? My mother-in-law once asked. If you keep pressuring Cindy like that, she'll feel even less like having children. He had defended me when I was struggling with fertility issues and alleviated the pressure from my mother-in-law. And after Aaron was born, when my mother-in-law tried to take him from me, this child is a precious heir. I will raise him. Please give Aaron back. Then saying enough, my father-in-law rescued Aaron from her hands. He also scrapped the cohabitation plan that had been proposed at the time when he saw that my mother-in-law might become too intrusive. Ben had sided with his mother and wanted to live together, but thanks to my father-in-law firmly saying, "You're the husband. Put your wife and child first," we were able to avoid cohabitation. If I had lived with my mother-in-law, I might not have endured her mistreatment. I am very grateful to my father-in-law. Thanks to him, I've been able to maintain a reasonable distance from my in-laws. Amidst being frustrated with life with Ben, I suddenly received news that my mother had passed away. She had a chronic illness, and my sister had been caring for her. My father passed away early, and my mother hadn't touched the assets he left, resulting in a considerable inheritance for my sister and me. What will you do about your parents' home? Ben asked me. My sister has her own home, so she said she'd give it to me if I want it. How about moving to your parents' home then? He suggested while we were sorting out the inheritance. We currently live in a rented house, but my parents' home is quite old. Yes, how about moving after renovating it? I suggested. How will you fund the renovations? Ben asked. I'll use the inheritance, I replied. I haven't told Ben the specific amount of the inheritance. If he knew there was a large amount, he might give it to his mother. That's why I've only told him about the renovation costs. That shouldn't be a problem then, Ben agreed. I felt relieved inside. Moving to my parents' home would mean being long distance from my in-laws. That means I could also keep a distance from the problematic mother-in-law. With that in mind, I began actively preparing to move. The renovations were eventually completed, and I moved to my parents' home. What's this? I thought, because there were more boxes than expected. The moving company handled it, but I was surprised by the amount. While having my suspicions, I opened a box of unrecognizable luggage and found my mother-in-law's clothes inside. Ben, there's a box here packed with your mother's clothes. What's this all about? I asked. Did I forget to tell you? My parents and I are going to live in this house together. What? I was astonished. I was dumbfounded by this sudden announcement. Why do we need to live with my in-laws in my parents' house? I couldn't help but argue with Ben. I didn't hear anything about this. The renovation using the inheritance was meant for us to live together. Shut up. I've already decided. Ben raised his voice and pulled out a document. Holding the document, I was shocked. A divorce paper? If you oppose it, it's divorce. How will you live if you leave me, an unemployed woman? Ben said. The divorce paper already had Ben's signature on it. While I stood there stunned, Ben started packing his travel bag with clothes. Pack up the luggage and prepare for my parents' move by the time I get back. Wait, where are you going? I asked. I'm going on a little trip. I sold my parents' house, so I'll use that money. I'll stay at my parents' house for 2 or 3 days, then go on a luxurious trip for a week. Ben answered and left. I was left feeling the worst. The cohabitation was decided without my consent. He left the bothersome task of sorting things to me, and he went on a trip with his parents. At that moment, I decided to retaliate thoroughly. During the preparations to move, I spread the insecticide I had stored throughout the house and left. I am very averse to insects, and although I knew the renovated house was safe, I had bought the insecticide just in case. As I looked at the divorce paper in my hand, the phone suddenly rang. That call led me to make a significant decision. Aaron, it's been a while. Mom, what's up? I contacted Aaron and received some help from him. 3 hours later, an unwelcome call from my mother-in-law came. You made me go through something terrible. What? It turned out that my mother-in-law had borrowed a spare key from Ben and entered the house without permission, just after I had spread the insecticide. And she almost fell from breathing in the air. She threatened at the end, I'll sue you. I felt it was karma. It's a far bigger issue to enter someone's house without permission, I retorted and hung up the phone. Since she's still lively enough to complain over the phone, she must be fine despite inhaling the insecticide. Thinking about cutting ties with such a family made me feel relieved. And a week later, when everything had settled, Ben, who hadn't contacted me at all, reached out. Are my dad and mom's move finished? Ben decided on his own that we would live together without consulting me, and he didn't help at all. He never seems to want to listen to my opinion. He proceeds with things based on his own ideas and acts on his own. Even now, he only asked about the situation over the phone, but I don't even know where he is. I had been disappointed in Ben before, but it was thanks to that person that I finally made up my mind. Yes, it's all finished. I just moved into a high-rise condo myself. War. While hearing his surprised voice, I laughed with my son, Aaron, who was next to me. He had left everything up to me, so he hadn't noticed anything. What do you mean with a high-rise condo? A high-rise condo means just that. A high-rise condo. With that, I ended the call. Finally, I was able to cut ties with Ben. My gratitude for the people who cooperated with Aaron was immeasurable. Thinking back, I headed to the sparkling new kitchen to prepare a special meal for Aaron. That day, when I told Aaron everything over the phone, he came to help right away. It's good you could come, but is work okay? No problem. I explained the situation, and they told me to go right away. Aaron works in real estate, and his company was started by a college senior. Since he had helped since his student days, it seems they understood immediately when he explained the situation. Mom, I need you to finish the contract today or tomorrow. I understand. So, I completed the necessary procedures, and I was able to move into the new high-rise condo. Today, as I was preparing for the celebration, Ben contacted me. Just imagining the reaction of my selfish husband and meddling mother-in-law when they visit the new home excites me. Hey, what's this? The next day, Ben contacted me. Apparently, he had ended a trip with his beloved parents in the middle to come and see our house. There's nothing here. Where is the luggage? Where could it be? What do you mean, where could it be? For details, please ask that person directly. After saying that, I could hear a voice of anger from the other end of the phone. Enough with the jokes. Ben let out a small scream. Hearing that voice and trying to suppress my laughter, Aaron appeared. Cindy, I'm sorry for the trouble my family has caused. Soon after, I heard my father-in-law's voice from the other end of the phone. They seemed to be on speaker, and I could faintly hear Ben and my mother-in-law's voices as well. It's okay. You supported me. What's that? Explain. I sent your luggage to another location. The day Ben left the house, it was my father-in-law who contacted me. He first apologized for not being able to stop the unilateral actions of Ben and my mother-in-law. Then he said he would handle them and decided to send their luggage to the specified address. Thanks to the movers arranged by my father-in-law, the luggage transfer went smoothly. So, what will happen to this house? After explaining everything, I heard Ben's voice of confusion. I sold that house. What? You sold it? Why would you do something like that on your own? That house was inherited by me. My sister didn't want it, so she agreed it was okay to sell, and I decided to sell it. What's the problem? The house was well located and had been beautifully renovated, so it quickly found a buyer. In fact, Aaron Sr. liked it and immediately offered to buy it. As a result, the house was already owned by its new owner. Isn't that a bit too selfish? Ben, which mouth of yours can say such things? It was you who decided everything without listening to Cindy's opinion. Now I will show you where you two will live. Wait a moment. What do you mean by you two? I've had enough of Diane. Hopefully, this way you'll understand. In the calm yet stern voice of my father-in-law, I could sense my mother-in-law's surprise. She was probably under my father-in-law's sharp gaze. Dad and Grandma, you're underestimating Mom too much. At that moment, Aaron, standing next to me, said as calmly as my father-in-law, I've heard everything from Mom. Why should my mom, who renovated the house after receiving it from Grandma and Auntie, have to give it to you guys? Dad, you must know how Grandma has been treating Mom. Despite that, why would you consider living together? Aaron, that's no way to speak to your father. Father? Just giving orders and expecting obedience. Is that what a father does? You ignored Mom's opinions, and sometimes mine too, didn't you? Honestly, I don't want to be a father like you, and I don't want my loved ones to meet people like Grandma. The direct words from Aaron, whom they had doted on, left them speechless. After that, I could hear my father-in-law sighing on the other end of the phone. I'm truly sorry, Cindy, he said, and then he ended the call. Just before the call ended, I heard surprised voices from Ben and my mother-in-law. With that, my father-in-law will probably handle those two. By the way, this high-rise condo is really wonderful, isn't it? Yes, I was hoping I could live here someday. The purchase of this high-rise condo was smoothly financed with the money from selling the house, my savings from when I was single, and the remaining inheritance. It looks like I will be able to live off the income from my work-at-home job. It seems like we'll have peaceful days ahead for a while. You know, I actually valued Mom over Dad because you taught me proper things, even though you were strict. According to Aaron, while Ben would buy him anything he wanted, he seldom provided strict guidance and rarely listened to him. Even when he talked about school, Ben would just say I see and not engage seriously, always suggesting, let's go shopping next holiday, only wanting to go where he wanted. More than Ben, it was important for me to listen carefully, sometimes scold him, and seriously consider his future. It's true that since Aaron got through his rebellious phase, he occasionally gave Ben cold looks. Also, I remember when Ben was criticizing me, Aaron would intervene as if to protect me, saying, that can wait. We have something important to discuss now. Children are more sensitive to their parents' actions than we might think. Every time Dad said something to you, Mom, he would insult you for being unemployed. So, I decided to send money to help you. Huh? I hadn't heard about that. I heard it from Grandpa. Apparently, all the money I sent ended up going to Grandma. My father-in-law had long suspected my mother-in-law's extravagant lifestyle. Indeed, Ben was sending her travel vouchers and gourmet food, but that wasn't all. Aside from that, my mother-in-law was frequently enjoying luxury lunches and shopping. The gifts Ben sent every month couldn't possibly explain it all. Despite this, the shared savings remained untouched. Turns out that all the remittances from Aaron were being taken by Ben and passed directly to my mother-in-law. I can't believe it. Knowing that, I've decided I don't want anything more to do with Dad. Aaron's expression was stern, clearly indicating his resolve. He seemed to be at the peak of his anger. I no longer intend to support Dad, and Grandpa said he's going to divorce Grandma. That's right. As Aaron said, my father-in-law proceeded with the divorce from my mother-in-law afterward. My mother-in-law tried to cling to my father-in-law, but he was fed up with her and Ben's self-centered actions and coldly pushed them away. I'll split the assets, but don't expect any inheritance. My father-in-law stated decisively, deciding to spend all his available funds and move into a facility. Due to my mother-in-law's wastefulness, there wasn't much inheritance left in the first place. Afterward, my father-in-law moved into the facility, letting go of my mother-in-law and Ben. As I was finally enjoying some peaceful days, I got another call from Ben. Hey, it's me, Ben. I know. What do you want? It's really tough, really. Reluctantly listening to him, the wasteful spending by my mother-in-law continued as usual. Ben had used up all the money he earned, and now they were even dipping into their living expenses. Previously, I supported the household with the money I earned, and we had remittances from Aaron, but now that these were gone, they were in a difficult situation. You're my wife, aren't you? Help me. No, I'm not your wife anymore. What? The divorce papers I received that day were promptly filled out and submitted by me. That means our marital relationship had already ended long ago. Unbelievable. Why did you submit it that day? You were the one who wrote it and brought it to me, right? I just followed through and submitted it. There shouldn't be any problem. Ben was at a loss for words upon hearing my response. He probably didn't anticipate that his own actions would backfire on him. So, can't we start over? What? No way. I've finally become free from you. There's no reason to go back. As I responded coldly, there was a noise on the other end of the phone. It's me, Cindy. What is it, Diane? It seemed like my mother-in-law had picked up the phone. I felt a strong aversion inside me upon hearing her contrived, sweet voice. I'm really sorry for being cold to you. So, do you remember how much I suffered? You tried to make me quit my job even before we were married, blamed me for not being able to have children, and tried to take Aaron away from me. If it weren't for my father-in-law helping, things would have been much worse. If you were in the same situation, do you think you could forgive me? My mother-in-law kept silent after my question. I will never forget nor forgive the treatment I received from her. And I have no intention to forgive Ben either. While you two were happily traveling, I was being ignored, wasn't I? From now on, please enjoy your wonderful lives. Goodbye. After declaring that, I hung up the phone, blocked his number, and cut off all ties with Ben and his family. Afterward, I heard that Ben and my mother-in-law were reluctantly living in a cheap apartment provided by my father-in-law. Ben had spent so much on his mother that there was hardly any savings left. He had a decent income, so he initially planned to save a bit before moving out. My mother-in-law tried to start housekeeping but was unable to curb her spending habits and do housekeeping, since she had been away from domestic chores for years, thanks to my father-in-law who had retired and taken over the household duties. While she was unaccustomed to housework, she fell and broke her leg, necessitating care. Overwhelmed with caregiving and housework, Ben accumulated fatigue, which led to mistakes at work, resulting in an irrevocable error that eventually forced him to resign. That's why he contacted me for help. Aaron visited and reported on Ben's plight, but he declined to help him. He should have at least saved the money I sent. Indeed, but regretting it now won't help. Meanwhile, my life was progressing smoothly. Thanks to Aaron and his friends recommending me, my client base for home-based work has increased, significantly improving my income. Aaron, who used to barely visit when Ben was around, now comes by frequently, and although he offers to send money, I decline as I'm not struggling financially due to my earnings. Thanks to that, Aaron has been able to save money and has moved into the same high-rise condo. Whenever I bring over some side dishes, he is always delighted and grateful. I'm truly happy. Being able to work at my own pace and having my beloved Aaron nearby makes every day immensely joyful for me. Years have passed. Today is a special day. Mom, I want to introduce someone to you. It's the day Aaron is bringing his fiancée. She is someone I've known well for a long time since she has been dating Aaron since high school. Ben doesn't know about this because it would cause trouble if he found out. Well, I doubt he would be interested anyway. Aaron is a bit too kind, so I feel reassured to entrust him to his capable fiancé. Just this time there is a formal greeting as fiancé and mother, so both of us are somewhat nervous. We know each other, so relax. By the way, there's something important I need to tell you. To my surprise, she was already pregnant with Aaron's child. That's what led to a prompt marriage. But seeing them so happy, I sent my heartfelt blessings. Determined not to become like my mother-in-law, I decided to support them while maintaining a healthy distance. Thanks to such measures, I feel that the relationship with my daughter-in-law is being well maintained. Occasionally, they come to show me their child's face, and we have been going out more frequently without burdening each other. Contrarily, I am unaware of the current situation of Ben and my mother-in-law as they have been abandoned by others. One's actions ultimately return to oneself. I must act carefully. With this awareness, I continue to work and handle household chores within my limits, enjoying a peaceful daily life.